Hey,
Right. Nice
right.
situation. Hell yeah.
Maybe
Hangs
listen.
out.
Alan, welcome to a fire conversation, my friend. Thank you for hopping on, guys. This is
Appreciate it.
a guy that I ran into contact with probably a year and a half or so ago. Stumbled onto him via a brand in California. I was like, damn, like this video, these photos are really sick. I'm like, who's this guy? Stumbled onto him and just kind of been following each other over, that time period. So finally got him onto the podcast and super excited to kind of dive in on to stuff with the creator economy. And hopefully anybody that's watching will get a little bit of knowledge or find some type of expertise from what we talk about today. So Alan, thanks for hopping on today, brother. How are you doing?
Hey man, thank you, bro. I was gonna say, like we've been like in contact for a while now. But no, I appreciate you reaching out to me and being like, yo, you want to hop on this podcast? I'm actually like trying to do more of them and just kind of get into like the realm of podcasting. I haven't like started my own yet, but been like thinking about it and stuff like that. But regardless, I appreciate you like reaching out to
Yeah,
me, man.
no, of course, dude. Yeah, podcasts are a cool way to kind of just share thoughts. For me, someone that's like, it's hard for me to kind of explain my thoughts in like, one
Right.
Instagram, something like that. So it's a podcast gives me, 30 minutes to kind of explain my thoughts. But no, dude, I really kind of just want to hop right in. Anybody, hopefully, if you're a creator, if you're a cinematographer, photographer, videographer, anybody that's creating content, an influencer on social media nowadays, everything kind of moving into, this Web 2 world into a Web 3 world. I think a lot of people are going to kind of get a good amount of insight on, I think, the conversation that we have today. So, guys, Alan, just fill the people in on a little bit of kind of your upbringing, and I'm talking like kind of a little bit from childhood. Where did you grow up? Where did you move to? And just kind of like a little bit of background history, just kind of in a few sentences.
For sure. I always try to like keep these. I try to get better at these and keep them short, but sometimes I always end up kind of rambling too much.
Yeah.
Just like let me know if you're like, okay, like what about this or that. So, but no, yeah, I grew up in Waterloo, Iowa, super small town. I wasn't born there. I was born in Bosnia in a city called Velika Kladuša. But I was like a year old when my parents moved out here to America. Um, it was like during like this whole war, genocide, this whole like kind of thing going on. Which is like sounds like I'm brushing it off. It was very actually crazy, but
Yeah.
it's just it was a lot of negativity at that time. Grew up in Iowa. I was always like a super just like creative, but like just on the computer, like learning things type of kid. Was super into video games, obviously, right? Like all of the other stuff. And the thing with video games is like that kind of brought me into editing and like making videos. It's kind of how I actually started. So when I tell people like when did I start and everything, I always say like, oh, it's been like a decade almost. Cause like I really started when I was like seventh grade, sixth grade, cause I was
Yeah.
trying to learn. I was watching people on YouTube playing like Call of Duty and like whatever the games were at the time, and they're making these little videos and cutting it together or making commentaries or making like whatever it was, So I was trying to learn that in a sense of like, well, how can I do this? And I started buying these like capture cards you would plug into like the Xbox or whatever it was. And at that time it was like so much more like cables and computing and all these different things where it's like now you can throw up like OBS and just start recording and you're like, you're ready. But yeah, I kind of started with that. I was never like, I was like a fatter kid, really chubby, just play video games, wasn't really into sports. And I think that was due to like the insecurity of like being fat and just like not wanting to play in those regards. But I was like in love with like, I guess the creation of like, making these videos I've seen people do on YouTube that were like my age or just a little bit older. And then, I realized like they're making money off these things and all that. So I was like, okay, let me figure out how to do this. And I had a buddy, a cousin of mine, he was also kind of like getting into the same thing. And honestly, I did that for a little bit. There's still videos like up on different channels and whatnot. And that kind of grew into editing like real life footage, like I was kind of transitioning to that. I found like a couple of YouTube channels that are still around, like Corridor Digital, Film Riot, like a popular one I feel like everybody would know.
Yeah.
And then Freddie Wong was the channel, but I think now it's called like Rocket Jump. I think he kind of like switched to doing like actual like movie stuff and like TV shows and whatever.
Gotcha.
But a friend of mine showed me those channels, and that's kind of how I transitioned into like editing this like real life like movie type things, because they would show you like the finished product, and then after the finished product was over, on like YouTube you can have like the little annotations and whatever, and they like pop up, and it would be like making of behind the scenes or whatever, and I would watch that, and I just started to like consume that content like so much more than like the finished product. You know what I mean? I was like learning on how they were doing it, because there would be like 2-3 guys, like, and they were all like close friends, just having fun. You know what I mean? They were like making a living off that.
Yeah.
And so my love for like creating and everything kind of like really started off trying to make like short films and make this kind of YouTube like action movie like content. So I was getting all my friends to get into stuff. I was like bugging my dad mainly to get like airsoft guns and like all these things. And
Yeah.
I was obviously young, so I wasn't like able to really fund these things, and I didn't understand the scope of like how much it all goes into it, where it's like costume design and like all these things, and that kind of fueled my like
Not to
creation.
cut you, brother. Hold on, give me 1 second. I just got this
Yeah.
little jab.
It's all good. I was hearing him in the background.
I knew she was going to be a pain in this. So this is my sister. She's fucking loves to only bark when I start podcasts. So
adorable, man. Yeah, she's like, let me get the fuck in there.
But yeah, sorry to cut you off. Two things real quick, because I need to get into it.
Yeah.
Or kind of chubby as a kid, dude. You've gotten in like great shape from what I've noticed.
Appreciate that, man. Yeah.
But also like damn strong too, which is like awesome to see. Like anybody that's even willing to deadlift over 400 pounds for like, you got to have confidence, obviously be strong. So like kudos to just like the transformation you've been making, and I'm sure it helps with a lot of guys that you've been around to kind of pushing you, but just having that good discipline, man. So keep rolling with that. But another thing is just like, what was cool that you said about like you started with video games and kind of that economy, and like it was funny too, because I'm into cinematography as well, and I started making, I remember it was me and my cousin would be like down here, and we would make like videos of us kind of like covering songs and like dancing and like doing some lame stuff, but like I was on whatever the hell the computer editor was at that time, just like mixing this stuff up, and I remember having like a blast kind of doing that. So like it's funny to see years after like how we originated into like what kind of gave us like that initial like push, because that's what I really believe is like motivation always comes from like the smallest things, and it's never always there. There's always like one thing that kind of like propels you like a few steps forward, and then you might hit a little bit of kind of like stagnation, but then there's something else that like pushes you a little bit further or like pushes you in a different direction. So like it's fun those things show up or anything, but if you do kind of want to like spin off on anything else, feel free to kind of get back into a little bit of kind of your background for the people.
For sure. No, yeah. I mean, yeah, kind of spinning off on that. I mean, it's the same thing. Like I think at that time I kind of found like fitness and like Arnold and like pumping iron at a younger age. And I was just starting like, there was like a strength conditioning class, in my high school freshman year. And that's really where I kind of fell in love with like working out and fitness. And that was kind of like my thing of like this is a sport. Like this is like the first sport I'm into, and I like, and I was just more so like getting strong and doing like the 5x5 program and all those kind of things. But it gave me like a sense of like empowerment of like, I can do something as well, like, cause I'd always see all the kids like, oh, I have soccer games and I have baseball and I have like a basketball game and all these different things. I never tried out for it. I was just never like into it. Even though now I'm like, I don't care, like I'm down to play whatever, you know what I mean? But it was that like initial push. And I think it just as like over time as things change and like even just looking back, like, I mean, we're still young, but like looking back, it was like there were so many things where now it's like it's just normal, you know what I mean? But it's like if you watch like anime back then, it was like you're definitely a fucking nerd and you're like a loser and you're like, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
unless it was like, unless you're like a cool kid and you were watching
yeah.
that shit, people would be like, okay, like that's fine. But now it's like just, whatever.
No, big time, dude. In my friend group, I remember I was like always the kid that kind of like, I don't know if I was just a nice kid. I didn't really stand up for myself, but I was always the kid to kind of get not like bullied, but like in a way, yeah. Like I'd be out with my friends and all of a sudden, I turn around, all my friends were running away from me, like booking it. And like what you said about kind of like TV shows, like, if you were watching, Nickelodeon versus like Cartoon Network, there was some type of like kind of this, kind of like branding to you or what you were at that
Yeah.
time. For now, like, for example, like people that watch, a lot of like kind of like hentai, and like kind of shit like that, are in, and that was like a funny way to put it. But, you know,
No, for sure.
it's just, it's interesting how like things have changed from like when you're a youngster kind of growing up, like for example, like I remember, like cargo shorts were, awesome. And then they were lame, but now they're cool, like, and it's just funny how things go. And I think just kind of like it's a cool way to look back at like like you said, we are still young, but it's funny to look back at even just like a few years, see how things change from like our high school age to
Oh
college.
man.
By the way, how old are you?
I'm 24.
Okay,
Yeah.
same.
Yeah.
Yeah, so but that's cool, man. So one, I didn't even know that you weren't from the United States, so that was cool as hell to find out. Um, you're in, so you were in Chicago at a time. You lived there, correct? Right?
So Iowa.
Iowa, or
Yeah.
so you visited Chicago at I think a few times, correct?
Yeah, I've been there actually a few times. 'Cause I used to work for different like agencies and like marketing kind of companies back home. So we would like kind of travel and go to different cities and whatnot. So yeah, but I mean it's in the Midwest, so everybody's like, oh yeah, you're from like that one spot.
Yeah, yeah. So when did you make the move to kind of ship it out and really, make I feel like, that was kind of like that step that you might have took that really kind of put you out there like, hey, I'm gonna put myself in this kind of uncomfortable position to move into a new state, meeting new friends, really kind of putting myself into this spot, when was
Right.
it? What was the deciding factor? And if there wasn't a deciding factor, like how has it been going? Where you living at and all that stuff.
Right. So like kind of going back to a little bit what I was saying earlier was like as I was transitioning into this short film, like all these kind of things, like a part of me was like, okay, how do I get a job out of this thing, because I wasn't really like doing the YouTube thing. I was kind of getting into it and like I was posting videos and kind of trying to like emulate the same thing I was seeing. But it was just like, as I was getting older and just the situations around my life and all that kind of stuff, it was just like, okay, how do I make money off this thing? And so I started like finding, like after high school, I found a job at Pixel Labs, which is like the first agency. It was like a video production company, and they kind of morphed into like marketing and all that kind of stuff. And that's where I learned more about like marketing and learned more about like just getting better at video in general. Like there was dope people that were around me that were also like creatives that were like, we had like a designated cinematographer and like a photographer, and so I was just learning like both sides. So I was like into it, and I was also shooting like just outside of work or excuse me, like I never went to college, but it was like outside of high school and all that kind of stuff, and I took classes in high school, but I just felt like I was already like too advanced. So luckily like the job, like I was like an intern, so to speak, because that's like what they were doing, but I didn't go to college, so they were just like giving me like a little part-time gig essentially.
Gotcha.
And like I grew into that, but there was a part of me like from the get, I was just always like, I need to be in LA, you know what I mean? Because like the people that are watching, they're in LA, and I'm just like, this is a spot, and like I have to be there, right? Like that's the only answer to like
Yeah.
make a living out of this creative thing, whatever I was like trying to chase, because it was kind of like I wanted to make movies, and so that was my whole thing, right? Like I wanted to be a movie maker and develop this like skill of that. And I was looking into colleges and whatnot, but it was just like financially didn't make sense. And I was kind of one of those people that were like, I'm gonna do it without college, like
Yeah.
I'll figure it out, like type of thing. So I worked for Pixel Labs, worked for another company, and honestly, like I left Pixel Labs, and I was like working at a warehouse. So I was trying to like just get a bunch of money in, because I wasn't making like a ton of money, but at this, obviously, you know, like those warehouse jobs, you make a lot of money. So I was making a lot of money, saving money, upgrading my equipment, because like the stuff that I was using over there was like way more ahead of the time than I was like, I had like a T3i, like a little Canon T3i, you know, and they were using like Sony mirrorlesses and like all these
Yeah.
things. So, you know, that's why I picked up a skill on like the A7S II and a 6500 and all these things like that on the camera area. And I learned like a lot from them, you know, and I learned a lot from the CEO as well, because I was always like really tight, you know. It was like a startup kind of, but it was, they've been already going on for like 7 to 8 years or something. Fast forward up the warehouse job, I got another job. I left that and I was like, in my mind, I was like, okay, I need to go to LA, like I'm ready. It was just like a lot of things, like family wise, that was kind of holding me back. And I was just kind of waiting for some things to kind of clear up for me to like make the jump, I guess. But then like I worked for this like this bigger, like kind of almost like Fortune 500 like company. But I worked in their like marketing team, you know, and then that gave me the experience of like having like multiple graphic designers or multiple like account reps and like all these things, right? These different terms and just different like roles that people played, right? In this whole marketing spectrum. So I learned even more from that on like understanding just marketing and like SEO and like all these, right, all these different things outside of just the creative. And obviously throughout like all these years, because like I got Pixel Labs right out of high school, worked there for like a year and a half. Then I did like the John Deere thing, and that was like for a little bit, like factory warehouse job. Worked at the second marketing company for another like year and a half. So all these like, you know, years kind of go by, and content and like all these things kind of are shifting as well, right? Like Instagram and social media was kind of just shifting in general. I don't even think like TikTok was like major yet. I think it was still like musically or something at the time, but you know, like, but all these things are happening, like, right, they're happening as a thing. And as kind of what we mentioned before, like as things kind of change, like you change around it, right? And people change around it as well, and like their ideas and thoughts around it and all that stuff. But yeah, man, it was honestly, it was just like there was a moment where I was like, I just turned 22. My birthday is January 3rd, 98. Just turned 22, and I was like, this is gonna be the year that, like, as a gift to myself, like this is the year that I go to Los Angeles. And it was still about like a month later or two that like I ended up actually leaving. But I put like my 2 weeks in, all that kind of stuff, and I was living with my mom at the time, and I was like, yo, like tomorrow I'm bouncing, you know what I mean? Because I already had put my 2 weeks in. And I was like, the day like after, I was just like, yo, like tomorrow I'm packing my shit and I'm just like, I'm out, you know what I mean? And she was like, you know, she was bawling like as a mother would, and she was like scared for me and all these things. And she was like, what are you gonna do? Where are you gonna work? Like, because I had nothing lined up, you know, I didn't know anybody, I didn't know anything, didn't have a spot to sleep in, like I didn't know what rent was looking like, all that kind of stuff, you know. And I was just like, I was researching a lot about just how to live in my car. I did that. I lived in my car for about 2 weeks. So on February 14th, which is Valentine's Day, and it's also one of my really, really good friends' birthdays. That's the day I left. And like none of my friends knew. Only my mom really knew. Like my dad didn't even know. Like nobody really knew except for my mom, just because like I lived with her, you know, and she can see like packing the bags. And she like worked the next day. And so like that morning I just left. You know, I drove.
That's crazy.
I drove out. Yeah, I drove out, man. And it was just that moment of like, you're kind of waiting for things to kind of happen or like align with whatever, right? Like your plan or whatever it is. And for me, it was just like, dude, like, what the fuck am I waiting for? You know what I mean? There's literally like, there was some things where I was like, okay, fine, like I'll do it for this person or for like my mom. Cause I know she was like trying to, you know, like sell the house and like get all these things kind of going. My parents had like divorced at the time and like whatever, you know, so there was like life stuff, right? But for me, I was like, okay, but it's like, I gotta go like and move on with my life. You know what I mean? Like I have to just say like, I'm doing this shit for me. Like fuck it. You know what I mean? I have to just do it now because I felt like I was wasting time like every day. You know what I mean? I just felt like every year or every day it was just like wasting time. I got to a point where I was just unhappy. Like I wasn't really happy doing the shit that I was doing, even though it was like creative and whatever. And I was making money and all that, but it was just like no, it wasn't fulfilling. And I just when I drove, man, when I got in that car and I was driving, it really hit me when I was like in Denver, Colorado. It was just like, yo, like I'm doing this shit. You know what I mean? Like I'm about to figure it out. Like, I don't even know
Yeah.
what I'm doing and what I'm like trying to do. I just know I'm trying to like do my creative passions and create stuff and figure it out that way. You know what I mean? Just kind of see where it goes and what it leads to me. And yeah, man, I came to LA. I lived in my car for about like 2.5 weeks or 3 or so. Ended up getting a spot in Glendale. That was my first apartment, and that was like through a connection of a homie that also was from Iowa, two brothers. Shout out to them. They
Yeah.
like hooked me up, man, because like it was like clutch too, just how all that kind of aligned and everything. And it was a super small like spot, bro. I'm telling you, like from like this little like wallway here, like this corner that was like I had like maybe 125 square foot, right? Like 130 square foot. It was like a dorm. You know what I mean? And but for me, I was like, fuck it. Like it's my first thing. Like it's better than sleeping in my car. I have a spot to sleep, eat, work on shit, like edit and fucking shower and all that. You know what I mean? I'm good. That's all I really cared for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then like a year goes by, and obviously during that time, like March, April, all that, like COVID happens, right? I didn't know that was gonna happen, pandemic, all these things.
Yeah.
And so I'm battling kind of through that, battling like not knowing people and just honestly just making content. Like I was putting shit out on Instagram, the right hashtags, all that stuff, like that kind of stuff brought people like more attention to like people to me, and you know, just growth and stuff like that. I've just been started to work with different people or following different people on Instagram that were like, yo, need a videographer, need a photographer, hit me up, blah, 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 right? And it's like these big like influencers. And I'll just reach out, like shoot my shot, bro. Like I sent like 300-400 different like DMs to people that I like really like just love their work or love what they were doing. You know, because over the time I was like seeing these music video directors and like the guys I mentioned before, Film Ride, and all these different like people, like, you know, at least the people that were in LA, like I would hit them up like, yo, do you need like an editor? Do you need like this, that, whatever it was, you know what I mean? So I was reaching out like all the time, never got a response. But I was still, you know, just emailing, DMing, whatever it was. I started even like looking on like LinkedIn and seeing like what was stuff on there and all that kind of, you know, all that kind of shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, like luckily one person struck, you know what I mean? Like an influencer, and started doing fitness stuff with him. That was Artemis. I don't know if you know Artemis
Yeah.
Bogan, but yeah, like his fitness stuff. And I've been following him for like a few years, even like way before that, which is crazy, like full circle. And a lot of people that I've worked with now, like that's kind of the same thing, you know what I mean? But yeah, man, I mean, like doing all that, just trying to get into the crazy, like being in that crazy madness of COVID and all these different things in this new area. And like, honestly, for me, like the first year, I'm like, I don't even know LA like that. You know what I mean? Like I know LA, but I'm like I know it, understand it now, to map it out better. Got my second apartment, this one here, the 1 bedroom, in Glendale as well, and all that kind of stuff. So I've been leveling up, growing, making more money, making more connections, working with bigger brands, companies, all that kind of stuff. But it's like that first year that was like COVID, and I think that's like for everybody, right? Like whatever was happening at the time is just like a blur almost, you know? So it's just like a lot of shit going on.
Yeah. So let me ask you, if you didn't move, do you think you would have still maybe have kind of morphed some things around to figure it out? Or do you think the whole drive, the whole going through Denver, the whole kind of like, you know, that time alone, those initial, you know, 2 weeks of you in your car, the first apartment, like, do you think that's what kind of led up to, you know, meeting Artemis, to now getting kind of like the collabs with, you know, Simeon and like all these, you know, the things that you've led up to, you know, like, do you think you making that, pulling that trigger to do what was probably tougher than staying in Iowa and like maybe trying to figure out things there? Or do you think, you know, because I just think, for example, and I don't think this is maybe your example, but I just think a lot of people, I had a guy, he's a rapper, artist friend of mine, and he was on my podcast. And he said that he was going to do the same thing, go out to LA. He said, you know, that's where the spot is. That's where everything, blah, blah, blah. So I'm just curious, is that almost like a thought that some people will have just because it's almost like a crutch for them? Like, oh, hey, I can't make it here, so I got to go try and make it somewhere else, you know? Or is that like some type of an excuse? Or do you think that really, like, for your example, I do really think that you making that decision for sure, like, propelled you mentally, you putting yourself in a way more connections than in Iowa, you know, like, so for sure for that situation. But do you think, like, you know, in other situations for people that I think a lot of people almost make those types of like excuses in a way, like, oh, like once, for example, the camera conversation, once I get a nicer camera, I'll get noticed, or when I get a nicer camera, it'll be better, you know. And I know you understand that because like, you know, I know you rocked with your first Sony for a while, and just because I pay attention to stuff, you know, and I know you're also a big handheld guy, which I am as well. And I think a lot of people rely way too much on the best technology or the best city or the, you know, stuff like that, and not really.
No, for sure.
Hey, have you ever actually put your 60 hours, 100 hours into learning cinematography, the rule of thirds, like things of that, how to actually storyline, how to storyboard, like how to color adjust, like those types of things, you know, before you go and buy a Canon R5, you know, like that's kind of what I'm curious about. Like for your situation, dude, I think for sure you pulling the trigger, making that mindset change of just like, you know what, I don't know what the fuck's going to happen when I go, but when I go, I'm going to figure it damn out. And you did. So fucking hell yeah, kudos, bro. That's like the coolest story, you know, like, and now it's just like, one, this is one chapter, bro. Like you know, you have so much to grow. And like, you know, anybody that's listening, like if you, like the coolest thing, and I always believe in like momentum, you know, once you get sort of momentum in one direction, it's a lot easier to keep that momentum going and to get it moving faster, you know. And an object in motion stays in motion. And, you know, as long as you're keeping that going in whatever direction you want to go, you know, for example, like I created digital nutrition and I'm trying to trailblaze in this direction down this industry, you know, nobody's really done it before, you know, and at any point I could veer left, I could veer right, I could stop, I could turn around, you know, but that momentum is going to be different than as if you were still going in that same direction. So I really believe in that, you know, if you're grinding, you're doing the right things, you're making, you know, improvements, you're making money, like double down on that shit, you know, don't kind of it up, you know, like whereas some people, you know, they get a little taste of something, or even in reverse, you know, they get denied, they don't get some leads, you know, they don't make as much money, they shelter away, and then, you know, they kind of stop. How, like there's no momentum anymore, you know, there's a, you know, a big kind of like thought process in that, dude. So but anyway, just kind of like back to your, you know, your whole story. One is like just super cool, like you said, you know, you had followed a lot of these people on like social media before, you know, that you even kind of collaborate. So you circle like that's the coolest thing to me, you know. For example, I had a few of those examples lately, and you know, just with like really cool guys, you know, Joey Swole in the fitness industry, a brother, just like a lot of CEOs and just like entrepreneurship style people that I follow, people in real estate. And like, I just never thought that I would come in contact with them, just because I was like, you know, I see them when I was like 18 online. I'm like, oh my God, I want to do what they do. And then, you know, I started taking steps every single day, and, you know, momentum. And then bam, all of a sudden now I'm on the phone with Joey Swole talking about, you know, a business opportunity. I'm like, you know, shaking literally on the phone. I couldn't believe, you know, like when he messaged me at first, I was like, holy shit, I didn't even reach out to this guy, you know, like it was just insane for that type of example, you know. And you know, I think those things lead to so much more, you know, even though nothing happened with, you know, me and Joey yet, but like what that gave me was motivation to, hey dude, like you are just the same as anybody else out in the world. And it all hard you want to push and how hard you really want to stay focused. And, you know, I'm a big believer in networking and doing all those things as well. So it's like, you know, how many avenues can you do? Can you do the 40 hours of studying and getting your craft better on YouTube and like actually taking in a lot of stuff? But you're also going to put the 40 hours to go outside and actually film and take photos. You know, you even go on out there by yourself, you know, like that's I think what sets out, you know, people for sure. You know, it's super easy to go and film with, you know, a few people, you know, when you're filming products and services, because it's cool, you know, but it's really hard to, on a, you know, a day by yourself to go and just practice, or to go just fly the drone, or like just to do stuff like that. But it's those things that I think for sure set you apart. You know, I've definitely noticed that with like, you know, I have a bunch of business ventures, and they're all kind of in different industries, but it's funny that when I focus on one really hard, it's almost that an opportunity comes into the other venture because I'm focused so hard on one. You know, if I'm connecting a ton on LinkedIn, you know, trying to get people to follow, you know, digital nutrition, and I'm just like really pushing that kind of whole aspect of blockchain and NFTs to people, and they get a little bit interested, and then they find out, holy shit, you're also doing that in real estate and some other areas, and they're now all of a sudden now they're interested in that avenue. So it's like, I just I look at everything as like a big picture. And I think, you know, anybody, especially in the creator economy, any influencer, you can't just look at it as like, you know, being the guy that's super dominant on like Instagram. You know, it's super awesome to, you know, to have a huge following or something like that. But for example, like there's so many people that have huge followings, but they have no idea about entrepreneurship, you know, and like I'm almost in the opposite. It's like I went to school for business. I have a really good mindset with those types of things. But I don't have the huge following. You know, I'm a micro influencer, you know, I would say even, you know, like I would love to change places with somebody that has, you know, millions of followers, because I know how to create a product, how to create a service, how to market it, and like do those.
I think say the same thing all the time. I'm like, man, if I was just like utilize your fucking following, I could do so much more.
Big time, you know, and like the way I look at it is that is like, you know, I hate to almost like compare myself to like people that do have it, or like, you know, that have the huge following, because it's like they didn't just wake up and, you know, just got the following. They definitely still put in the work. You know, there's some where they've gotten, you know, just weirdly lucky, you know, some people on social that post some just like stupid shit and they get, you know, popular for those
viral.
You know, like for kind of stuff. People that like post a lot of comedy stuff and they've gone viral and they have a huge following, but like, where's that going to go? You know, like it's cool that, you know, that everybody knows you, but like, you know, besides your brand deals or something like that, are you setting yourself up for like the future? And that's what I really believe in, is like, you know, and especially like we're in a freelance world. So it's like, it's tough because, you know, we're not like, I talked to my grandpa the other day. He's like, you know, is your job giving you a check every single week or every month that you know is coming in? And with freelance, you necessarily can't say that unless you have a contract that is doing that, you know. And I have a few that I get paid every month, which is great, but there's, you know, some of those aren't the best gigs. Some of the best gigs and the most fun and just like the best experiences are the ones that just like are a one-off deal and that's it. But in that world, that's super scary, because how is that creating, you know, generational wealth? You know, like how are you setting yourself up for when you're 80 years old or when you have kids? And like, you know, I'm a big believer in that, is like, you know, with entrepreneurship, it's all about, you know, creating assets, whether that's, you know, homes that could then bring in cash flow, so that you can take cash flow and reinvest them into your other businesses and things like that. So like with freelance, you know, you kind of get stuck in like two different areas of like, do I want to keep taking my money, reinvest into my cameras, keep re-improving, or do I want to take this money and, you know, start a new business, or like, you know, put it into savings? You know, there's so many different things to do. And I think a lot of people, especially in the social media world, don't have that necessary mindset. I think they're super good at creating content nowadays, dude. People are a million times better than me, for sure. I barely post a damn thing on social media. I'm so caught up in, like, you know, what people, not so much like what people think, dude. I'm just more so like, you know, I'm big into cinematography. So movie, like, you know, long form content. I love shit like that. So it's hard for me to make a 6-second video, you know, but are super good at making something like that, or a 10-second video that's like, you know, a reel or a TikTok, and it's, you know, it gets tons of views because it's meant for that. It's meant for today's attention. But for me personally, dude, I don't enjoy making it. I can't see it. It's like, you know, how, you know, I put so many hours into like making a YouTube video or something like that, and tons of hours editing, all these details, you know, sound design, transitions, everything. And then it gets no views, you know. But then I post a clip of me walking up a mountain in Arizona that's 4 seconds long, and it gets, you know, 350,000 views. So it's like, when that stuff happens, man, it's just like, it kind of aggravates me, you know. So there's a lot of people that are really good in creating that are definitely, I want them to keep pushing, doing that stuff, what they're doing, getting, you know, impressions and getting popular for that. But I want them to like, dude, get on YouTube and start like finding mentorships and actual business. Like, you know, if you have this community that's listening to you, that's trusting you, like they haven't even met you. You don't even know they exist, but they are watching your shit every single day. And like, and those people, man, like if they just started, you know, listening to some audiobooks, following something, they could turn their huge community into such like a huge business. you know, and anything that they do, whether it's supplements, clothes, like, you know, products, I think are really hard, to be honest, compared to services. I think services are depending on the person and like what they're doing. But I think personally, like, you know, with my supplement catalog, like trying to market 45 products compared to, let's say, I have an energy drink coming out. So that's going to be just like, you know, marketing one product, you know? So it's like, that's a little bit easier than marketing a whole catalog, or then, you know, our services, you know, videography, photography, you know, because if they believe in you and they see some of your work, it's almost easier to kind of get them to get into your services. Whereas products, they want to see what, you know, like, are other people using it? Like it's a different battle, you know? So,
I think the whole content thing too is like, the thing with it is like, I totally get that stuff where it's like, people are like, oh man, like I spent so much time on this video, and then I post other video and it does like way better than the one that I spent so much time on. But I think it is like the fact of like, I mean, so many things, right? 'Cause it could be like you might not, like YouTube and TikTok, for example, are just two different platforms, like in general, right? So it's like YouTube, it's like, it's just not what it was before, where you can like post something like really dope, and you know what I mean? It's like that engagement and reach isn't there really anymore. Like you have to build like that foundation, right? For TikTok, like you can upload like a 6-second thing and it'll blow up because like something new is always like constantly being shown, you know? And on the AI on there or whatever it is, like the software and all that stuff, like obviously it categorizes it a lot better, you know, for people to like see this thing of like, oh, like where the fuck is this dope little location at, or whatever, you know, where it's like, on YouTube, it's just like the search engine and all these different things are just so different, you know. But even like YouTube Shorts was kind of like starting to pick up, and everything is just like depending on the content you make. Because like sometimes you can have that 10-minute video on YouTube and then, you know, cut 4 pieces of content or 10 or whatever it is, little short snippets, and teasing it on TikTok or IG Reels and kind of pushing people to be like, let me see this full thing, you know what I mean? Because a lot of things are like that for me too, where I was seeing people just post snippets of vlogs and I'm like, damn, like I want to see what happens, like what's the finished thing. And I've caught myself like a lot of times like, okay, let me go to this guy's like profile, I could go on Instagram or go on his thing. If the YouTube link is in TikTok, try to find the video, realize it's not even like posted yet, and I'm like, oh fuck, you know what I mean? So I'm like, now I'm like saving videos, like favoriting shit, come back to it, whatever it is, and like that is a tactic that works. But all of it's like a consistency thing, right? Because there's people that I know that post like short, trying to go viral shit on TikTok, and they don't do well at all. You know what I mean? And it's like, and they post like a minute, like, hey guys, this is how you do chest, blah, 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 whatever. And it does super well. You know what I mean? So everything is just like, it's just weird. It's random. It's all like, you know what I mean? That's why I think like consistency, and then just truly understanding like what you're creating and like what are the means for that. You know what I mean? Like, because if you kind of like start putting expectations on things, like it's never gonna go your route. You know what I mean? It never does. You know what I mean? You can do a million posts and like all your viral ones might be the ones that you never thought would ever go viral. Probably the ones that you never spent the most money on or time on, or you know, all these things. You know what I mean? So it's just like you can't have, like, that's one big thing for me is like the expectation thing. Like I've kicked that out the door. You know what I mean? There's sometimes it'll come back and I'm like, I do make an expectation thing or whatever, but a lot of times I just kind of let it go. And a lot of the influencers I work with and stuff, you know, like when they ask me like, why is this or that or whatever, and I'm just like a lot of close friends that I have, same thing, you know, I just try to tell them like, look, man, like you just have to continue making stuff, you know what I mean? Because it kind of goes back to the same thing you said of like being in certain areas where you live at and like 10,000 hours and you know what I mean, all these things, right? Like that's like people, I had a 6500, which is like, it was like $1,500 at the time, which is probably way less. Like for $1,500, you could probably get that camera and the lens, right? And people thought I had like a camera that was like $4,000 or $5,000 for the body.
Right.
You know, and everybody's like, man, what settings do you have on this camera? Like, and I'm like, I don't even have that camera. I'm like, wait, what? Like, what are you shooting on? Like something even better? And I'm like, no, I just like the 6500. You know, people were like, ask me like all my shit, like all these settings, like what profile picture I'm using, like do I change things, whatever it was. And a lot of times I would tell people, I'm like, oh, this is what I use, whatever, but it's not going to help them because they're not putting in the effort of like doing that shit, right? It's like that one thing where it's like, don't fear the man that knows 10,000 kicks, fear the man that knows one kick, or that's trained one kick like 10,000 times, right? Because it's like, if you do one thing so much, you're going to learn just every ins and outs of that thing. Like you're
Yeah.
gonna learn it so much that it's like becomes a part of you. You know what I mean? So and that improves your quality, that improves like especially if it's filmmaking and creativity and all these things is like, man, you can pick up a fucking like I still have my T3i. I can pick that up, get a crazy location, crazy models, crazy clothes, all these different things, and make a dope like creative ad for fucking Versace or whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Easily. Like that's not even like I know I can do that. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But obviously, there's always that stigma of like I need that better thing. I need like I was like that too when I was younger and I was starting out. I was like, nah, and that was another thing I think too was like, man, I can't make these like short films these guys are doing because they have like a 6D and I have a T3i, you know what I mean? Or like whatever the case was, right? Or it's like, oh man, he's shooting in 4K or 1080p and I shoot 720 or I only have 1080 24 and he has 1080 60. Like there's no way I could be making cool shit, you know? And somewhere along the line, I just kind of got over that. I was like, I just want to create shit, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that's what it is. And I think that's like for anything, it's just like consistency of over time. Like that's just truly for me, like that's what success really is like minimizing all expectation and just being consistent. You know what I mean? Like, because that's gonna get you so fucking far. Like, even me now, it's like creativity and videography, and like, I want to make dope commercials. I want to make movies someday, all that kind of stuff. But like you mentioned before, like diversifying your income and different ventures and stuff. Like, yeah, like I have like a little supplement thing going on as well. Definitely want to get into real estate. Definitely want to get into like Pure Space Studios for creatives, like so many things, man, because that kind of stuff is gonna get the generational wealth, right? Like you're building just more than like a film director. And I think the thing is like it's with this day and age too that like you have the ability to do that. You know what I mean? Like I think before it was like you should like focus on one thing.
Yeah.
But I think like we've seen so many people do multitude of things, you know, like Kanye making clothes from rapping. Like everybody was like, bro, you're a rapper, like you can't make clothes, like you're not a designer. You know what I mean? And he did both, you know what I mean? Now he's got like shit with Gap and shit with like
for that he was the DJ and they said he couldn't rap, you know, like so that was
that's what I'm
just
saying. Like he made beats only for like all your favorite rappers. And
yeah.
they're all like you making music, like what the fuck? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now he's like the guy that every rapper is like trying to, you know, keep up with, and now he makes his own fucking beats. Oh my god, you know what I mean? And like, oh shit, all the clothes that he's rocking that's super dope is all his own shit. Oh, you know what I mean? So it's like that's the thing, right? Like that's the ability of being able to do like multitude of things in this entrepreneurial kind of creative world that we're in, right? Like it's nothing is anymore is like nothing feels like it's out of reach, you know?
Yeah.
And I think that's to deal with like the networking of people and all that like kind of stuff too. I think like when you mentioned like you had said something about like if the location was like needed, you know what I mean? Because the thing with me too, where I was thinking about that as well. There was a guy that I follow on YouTube. Maybe you know him as well, Daniel Schiffer.
Yeah.
Like super dope product guy, right? Like, and that's kind of how I got into product videography and photography because I was watching him do it, but I was watching like seeing him how he did it. And I was like, okay, cool, I can like do something like that. And like funny enough, I do like a lot of videography, right? Like of that like product stuff.
Yeah.
And I was thinking like, man, like back home, like I had a massive ass house. Like my parents had a massive house, right? My mom did. Had a basement, had like 3, 4, 5, 6 light setups, green screens, backdrops, all this shit, right? Decent camera, everything. And I was never doing that. I was never making product shit. I was never like making YouTube videos and all that shit. But now, like I'm doing all that kind of shit, making reels on it, BTS, doing like making of, but then making the product. And I'm also like juggling a bunch of client shit. So it's just funny how all that's kind of shifted. And I was even telling like a couple of friends of mine and other people, it was just like, it's crazy how much like more expensive LA is compared to Iowa. It's insane, right? That's like night and day. And it's funny how much like money I've actually spent on like investing and growing things in LA since I've moved. You know what I mean? Like I'm way more focused on like stocks and crypto and business ventures and real like all these things. You know what I mean? Like I'm spending so much fucking money, whereas like in Iowa, it was like I had all this money and I wasn't really doing shit. You know? So, or I had like stable income where I was like, I could be chilling and like investing into different shit, you know what I mean? But I wasn't thinking that way until I came out here and I was like, oh, I'm on my own. All the money that's coming in is freelance and I have to make it be my own shit, you know what I mean? And I was like, man, like how can I get away from this freelance thing to have other shit that's like consistent? But it's like, Like, why didn't I just do that shit when I was already had something
Yeah,
stable and I had the
definitely.
time to make, you know what I mean? Like, so
Sometimes
I think,
fall
go
into
ahead.
place, and that's how it goes, you know. And
Yeah,
before I
man.
kind of get into a little bit of like business and like how you right there, but I do, just because we just kind of got off the topic of like creation and stuff like that, I'm gonna
Yeah,
pull up one of the videos right now because the people need
yeah,
to see.
go for it. One thing I also wanted to say was like, I think location is always like determined on like what you want to do, right? Because I think LA is just like it's a cool spot for everybody, man. Like even my cousin, he came out and lived with me for a little bit. He was kind of going through things mentally, right, trying to figure out like what he wanted to do and all that kind of stuff. And LA just wasn't the vibe for him. You know what I mean? He went back home to Iowa, but now he's like a definitely different person. You know what I mean? So I think being in LA and just seeing like what's possible, because man, when I'm here, like I'm seeing people live in better houses and apartments than I am, spending like 3, 4, 5K, 6K, whatever a month, but driving like Rolls Royces, Ferraris, like and like just nice ass fucking cars, Maseratis, whatever it is. You know what I mean? That's like even a BMW, like that's expensive, bro. It's insurance. With like if you live on your own, you're paying all these things. Like it's expensive. Like me having a BMW in Iowa is like a flex. You know what I mean? Because it's like it's still an expensive car. It's still expensive insurance and whatever. So it's like the fact that people are doing that in this area just means like there's more money out there. Like there's more opportunity out here. Like there's you know what I mean, all these things, and that's like how it is in a lot of major like big cities, right? So it's like
Definitely.
that just goes to show like there is ways to do it. Like you just have to figure out like what's your thing and like and I feel like for me that was like a big push, you know what I mean? Because I've seen like okay, if these people can do it, like why can't I, doing my own thing. So
Cool. Well, I was trying to stream it, but it's off my computer, so I'm just gonna flip this camera. I watched one of my favorite videos of yours, right? For multiple reasons. The location, how you filmed it, and most importantly, the lighting, dude. And this video, for anybody, before I start this, I want to preface this to people. I think, and you correct me if you think anything different, that lighting and I think just creativity is almost half the battle when it comes to video. Sound design, I would say, is probably like that next kind of battle for sure. But other than that, it's like if you have an awesome concept, you have a good model, all those things that just make things better, if it's a product or service that makes the video better. But if you know a lighting and you have a good storyline and a good creativity, and then, editing is just like that additional thing. So this video, dude, when you first posted this one, I was pumped because it was right when I was getting into creating digital nutrition's first energy drink. So I was like, oh hell yeah, like I wanted to see what I could do with like that style of stuff, and I've seen what you've done with like other supplement videos with him, and like it's just like a super cool style. It's definitely like what I enjoy most, and I think that's why I've always kind of stuck around like following you, is because your
appreciate that.
content style, for sure, is like
Appreciate
definitely my
that.
vibe as well. Which some people they have different vibes, and I just don't really gel with it for my brands personally.
No,
For
for
digital,
sure.
we're a brand that's futuristic. Like the whole idea is that we want people to get into digital nutrition in a year from now, 2 years, 3 years from now, when blockchain and crypto is getting to its like peak.
Right.
So this video, and I'm gonna let people watch it. The lighting is what definitely pulled me in, dude. Like the first few shots of what's your buddy's name in this? Sorry, I forget his name.
Yeah,
Chris,
Christopher.
right? And dude, just like one, you nailed the shots, the quality. One, you didn't miss focus. That's a big thing in videos, just people using clips that are out of focus. So like I could tell in your videos, you're not using extra clips just because you use the high quality, and you're putting things, correct and concise. This is a 31-second video, and guess what it tells me? That 3D energy drink is badass. It gives you energy, and done. And that's what you need in an energy drink, man. You need to open it, you crack it, you get to work, and you're done. So we're gonna watch it because it's fucking sick.
Sick. I appreciate it, man. I appreciate it.
I'm gonna stream it. I don't know why the hell it's not going on to my other computer, but so for the people, this is it. I'm not gonna play with sound just because I want you guys just to see the beauty. Is this handheld, by the way, or you got a gimbal?
Maybe like the first 2-3 shots were gimbal, and I actually wanted a few of them more to be gimbal, like at least just the beginning energy stuff, like the drinking scenes. The gimbal actually ended up dying. So I just went on handheld. I was like, it's fine. I can do handheld.
So that right there, man, that video, and I'm gonna let it play again. These lighting shots, beautiful, slow motion, like good mixture between like fast pace and then into slow mo. Like I think anybody that could dial in that stuff is, and like for example, you just showed 2 different scenes, and it was almost like the transition was so seamless that some people wouldn't even realize it, and you could be in 2 different, completely different areas of where you're at, and we would have no idea.
No, for sure.
What the hell, dude? What's with the no recycle at the end? No,
we picked everything up. We picked everything up.
You picked it up. All right, good. No, dude, that video, that one, and then I want to pull up definitely like your photos as well. I know some of the shoots that you did in it was I think it was a clothing brand. I know you have one of the photos like tagged up onto your Instagram. Those were just money shots, man. So like, just for the people listening now, I just want to let's try and give some people a little bit of like the advice into how this kind of video came to be. Did you have the idea first? Did you have the song first? Did he come up to you and say, hey, we got 3D, let's go make a video for 3D? What was kind of like, how did it start? What's kind of like your process for like timelines, and like, how did the video come to be? And, and then despite that, it's like that video, 3D should have it. They should be posting that, like, because, if I'm a consumer, I understood what you were trying to portray, and it wasn't the thing is like, can you get a message across as quick as possible, especially in the social media world? And I think for sure in that video, you definitely did. If it's anything longer, a minute and a half, and people aren't still getting the message, it's a bad video, Right. And within, I think, even the first 3 shots, like it goes, that top down shot, super cinematic. It's kind of dark, moody. And then bam, it's that shot of the can in his hand. And it's like, the color on it was just like blasting out, and I love kind of like color splash stuff. And then the transition from like the one can to the other was super cool, because what does that show to the consumer now? Hey, we don't just have one flavor, we have at least 2. And now that gets people thinking, what other flavors do they got? So like, that's a big way I think of, is like trying to put yourself in the consumer's mind. What are they going to think when they're watching the video? Not only is it just like super high quality, badass, action scene, slow-mo, like he looks like he's killing it. I want to be just like him in that video,
Right.
But it's also like, what's going to make the consumer want to buy the product? Because realistically, that's essentially, besides maybe making a dope piece for his social media and for your portfolio, the whole idea for 3D to possibly use it is to get products sold, and I think that this video is definitely bonkers, and it definitely did the job. So what's kind of like what was, at least in this one, or maybe in general, dude, what's like, just for the people, what's kind of your process when you're creating a video?
No, for sure, man. I appreciate you hyped that shit up, man. I appreciate that.
No, dude.
No, I love that, man. I love that. That's I'm glad though. I love, like, when I hear that makes me happy.
Like sometimes, you may make videos one way to start with the sound, sometimes video clips first. So just in general, like what's your usual rundown?
Yeah, no, for sure. With that one, it was like, well, in general with videos, like, especially if me and Chris are doing it, it's a good homie of mine. We've developed a relationship over like 2 years, partnership, and honestly like a business partner now too. Some different ventures and whatnot. But he's just like a guy like me, where it's like, when we're creating something, and for me in general, I just, like I said, I want to make commercials. So it's like, when I do stuff, I make it like a spec ad, I make it like a commercial. I try to, whatever I can, I try to make it to be like you would see this on TV, or a big giant brand would like be utilizing this, right? And 3D is a big brand as well. They just were sending him out products. Most of the time, it's like in the influencer world, I guess they kind of send out products just randomly to influencers or whatever. He has like no really affiliation with them. Christian Guzman, like the owner of the company, he follows Chris, and like maybe that was, just seeing like I think that's like a smart move on him, where it's like, yo, we're just gonna send you cases. So they literally like DM'd him like a few weeks ago. He was sending me, he's like, yo, bro, he's like, look, like another one. You know, he's like, what do they want? I was like, I think they're just sending you shit like in hopes of like maybe you fucking post it once in your story and lead to more
Yeah.
sales. You know what I mean? Like they're probably already making enough money because they're like in targets and whatever and all that shit, right? So
Yeah.
that's all like business, whatever. On like the creative aspect, it was more like I don't think it was a particular song, but for me, like creativity kind of stems from even like when I'm on the treadmill doing cardio and I'm listening to music and I hear like different beats, different moments. I'm thinking of like, you know, cuts and all that kind of stuff. And then obviously I try to find something on these like subscription sites and like whatever to kind of hear like the vibe I'm going for. With that video specifically, the 3D one, it was like I had it in mind of the interchanging and drinking shot. I was actually gonna do a lot more. I was gonna like cut out Kristen's hands and like all these different things and like give the actual 3D cam like a 3D effect of like popping off the screen type of thing. Just with time and like me wanting to get it out there and all that kind of stuff, I didn't really do that. The idea didn't like stick and land as much. But I just had that idea of like that the first like scene is in downtown LA, right underneath the concert hall in Disney, like the Disney concert hall thing. And that's like a very popular spot, like Batman and all that kind of shit was shot down there.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it's a super popular spot. And I was just like, let's just use this. Like, let's use. I was like just like direct sunlight, but that was like the vibe that I wanted to go for because I knew like everything around him was going to be very black, very dark.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
super bright colored. There's 3 flavors actually. The red and the orange are like almost the same, and so it was kind of hard to differentiate that. But it still I think came out like fine, and it just showed, like you said, like it shows people. That's kind of how I think about it too, right? Like it shows people there's multiple products, like there's multitude of things, right? Like it's not just like here's this fucking can, like I'm drinking it, get yours today type of thing. You know, it's like I'm trying to develop a story. So I'm always just trying to think of a story like that makes sense and that like, you know, when I make this content, like the brand is going to see it or a brand is going to see it and be like, I want to make something like this. Or if that specific brand sees it, they're like, man, like we should use this, you know? So that was pretty much like that. And then I just had that concept and I kind of just built off of like just creating more things, you know. The second location was actually in Glendale, like literally like down a few blocks. It was just like a little alleyway. And I had in mind of like I wanted to transition the piece, but I wasn't too sure how I was gonna make that like happen. And I was just like, yo, I'm gonna use the scene where you're like drinking the can, but the last one was like the silver one. So we're gonna drink the silver one in the second location, and then you're just gonna walk off. And as you walk off, it'll be like this like masking transition to like boom, 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 you know, going crazy. And then with like the music, I just found like, you know, parts, and I even chop up songs. A lot of times it'll be like, you know, a 3-minute whatever. And I'll chop up like a little intro, put a little like middle, and have like a nice fade in, you know, and I'll try to chop it up to like the beats and whatever it is that same song. So a lot of the music I pick, I edit, all that kind of stuff. And even just depends. Like a lot of times there is songs that I'll hear and I'll save it, whether it's like a real song that's like not copyrighted, or it's like, or it's copyrighted or whatever, or it's like non-copyrighted subscription stuff that I hear, then I'm like, I want to use this, or I start kind of piecing together things, you know. And then sometimes it's just like I already know the concept, like I already know like this location I want to use, and this thing I want to like, this is how I want to do like X, Y, and Z, and you know, make this thing happen. With that one, I just kind of just saw it as I was shooting it. Like I had some shots in mind that I knew I wanted to get, but I just kind of saw it as I was doing it. Like even him like drinking up and getting that low angle shot, like handheld. It's just like it just looked cool. You know what I mean? It just looked like it was so much more like bigger than life. You know what I mean? Kind of moment, especially with like the highway going over and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it really honestly just depends. It just depends, man. You know, like it depends on the content. Sometimes I'll develop concepts earlier. Me and Chris will sit down and we'll chat about ideas and just kind of like, you know, how we want to go about it. And sometimes things just kind of come to me. It comes to me at random moments, to be honest. Like sometimes, you know, I have to think about it on the spot, or it's like I said, music and just kind of living life. Especially if there's like time for the project, then I'll just kind of live a little bit, you know, and let it kind of come to me naturally. You know, with music that I hear, so I could be listening to like a rap song or like fucking jazz song or whatever it is, just like the emotion of it or the feeling. I'm like, okay, now I need to find a song that like resembles this kind of style, and I know what I'm gonna like shoot for this. You know what I mean? And it just kind of comes to me in that moment, to be honest.
No, that's good, man. And I know, like, definitely when I'm, in the editing process, things kind of like trial and error. You're like, you see something, oh, like that just so happened to work perfectly with the sound, as, the risers coming up, like that would be really cool if I threw this clip in because it's, moving quickly and it just so happens to look perfectly with the trend. So I know, like, kind of rolling almost with the punches. So for any, if there are going to be some editors kind of like watching this, it's really, I think, have like a base layer, your idea, but then don't be scared to like put your kind of unique kind of like touch on it. I feel like that's when the best videos come out. It's like, it's awesome to learn from, Peter McKinnon, Schiffer, all those guys, but it's also like, you got to do something that's your style, whether it's being the handheld guy or being the guy that's, still creating, like, for example, I'm still on my first camera too, man. Like, like, and I'm going to push that thing until somebody is saying, hey, dude, get a new camera, buy it, because nobody, same thing. Nobody's told me, hey, like, your, quality is low or anything like that, because if you nailed a shot and it's in focus, you got good lighting, there's no reason
it's kind of like breaking up a little bit the Wi-Fi.
That shot shouldn't look good or shouldn't look like it's, it's a cool, like, kind of like insight, oh, you got me on?
Yeah, I got you now. I came back a little bit. I was like, yo, I'm losing him.
All right, I'm back. All right. Yeah, my dog's going crazy, so I wanted to hop over here. Yeah, I mean, I think we had a great convo on all this. I think anybody that is in the realm could probably get some knowledge. What's like your plans moving forward, dude? Do you got any like cool things, any videos planned with some people that you wanted to share, or like anything you're excited about, or are you really just kind of just rocking and rolling like day by day, figuring out some things? What's your plan for the rest of the summer? Do I need to plan a ticket out there, and are we making some content? What are we doing?
Yeah, man, on the content thing for you, like, yeah, let's run it, bro. Let me know. I'm down to make anything happen with your supplements.
So on that note, so my energy drink, we're going into the second round, and the manufacturer's in California. So I don't know exactly how far you are, but maybe when I go down there, go down there for the second and third round, that'd be a great time, I think, to link up, either just to vacay, man, and just to hang out and just go meet some of the guys, help you kind of make some projects. I'll bring some of maybe my stuff, and I think that'd be a cool thing, man. This is one thing, like, out here, man, I'm not pulling the, oh shit, I gotta move to fucking LA, to find, but really I have no personal friends that are into the same realm as me. A lot of them, where I live in the south side of Chicago, is blue collars, can be, you grow up, you're going to be a plumber, you're going to be an electrician, you're going to be construction, and that's your role, man. And then I have a few friends that are, doing the doctor route, and stuff like that. But I'm really the only guy doing entrepreneurship, really the only person that's in like cinematography. So it comes down to like, how much can I go and do on my own? And like, it's fun to do things for my brands, but I almost can't put too much time into it, because like if I'm or anything like that, it takes away time for me, creating relationships in some of my other ventures. So it's like it's like a tough point where I'm at, is like, do I want to be the founder and like CEO of a lot of these ventures and companies, or do I want to continue being, because freelance, dude, that's where I've gotten my most cash flow. That's where I've gotten a lot of relationships. So it's like, how do you stop doing something that's paying super well to go, let's say, keep, pushing out a health and social club mixed, and I'm doing a really cool thing with that, and it's like, how can I put a lot of time in that if I'm, it's a hard battle, but like, right now. I want to figure it out, but I do want to travel, and I want to, meet some people. And like, for example, when you link up with somebody like yourself or like other guys like that, it's a ton of fun. I love travel films. Like that was my, like what I really kind of, when I first got my camera, it was like, I started with vlogs. I was in college and I was doing like, I'd film for like a week and I'd create this vlog, and it was just terrible, terrible edits, and just like, there was no storyline, nothing. It was just all BS, put together in a video. And then, yeah, definitely. So then I got into like, started getting better. I was like, wow, actually, I'm, starting to understand this, starting to finally, figure out how to shoot manual, and went to Dallas, Texas. And I was like, let's make a travel film. I found out about story blocks. I started using some of their stuff in the video. It was cool, man. And like, I enjoyed it. So I made another travel film when I went to Colorado, another one in Florida, and like Arizona. And so I love doing that stuff. And I know Cali would be an awesome spot. So, I'll definitely, I want to hit you up, man. And let's, hopefully if it's in the area, I'd love to link up during both those times. If not, dude, either way, I still want to fucking link up and make some stuff together, because I think both of our styles, or anything like that. And obviously I'm in the gym scene, the fitness scene too. So it's like, even if we go and just grab a workout together, man, that'd be a lot of fun. So.
Nah, yeah, 100%, man. I'm super down. Yeah, let me know on that. I mean, I definitely love to come with you or whatever it is, just like hang out and catch a lift or get some grub and stuff like that.
No doubt. What you got how much longer you got on that lease? You want to move into a 2-bedroom or what?
No, I don't know, man. I think I'm actually done with the lease right now. I'm on like a little month-to-month thing, so I'm just chilling here. It's crazy that like a year has gone by in here. It's insane. So I feel like I just got this shit like yesterday, but now I'm just chilling right now, man. I got like I said, I got me and Chris kind of started this supplement thing going. We got this supplement thing going together. I'm kind of a part of it as like a investor, but also like kind of like creative director. Yeah, so that's kind of like my first kind of bigger venture that's like actually like happening type of shit. So we're going through like all this stuff. I mean, we already have like samples, and we have like graphics coming in, all these different things, making labels, everything. So we're just developing all that right now. I mean, I still do my creative thing. That's been growing more and more with different brands, working with Red Bull Records, Timmy and Panda, just so many, right? Like all these different big influencer fitness names, bigger companies, Younger LA for clothing, and like a bunch of different other people as well. And yeah, man, I mean, I think it's just all happening how I kind of expected it to, or like wanted it to, right? Because it was like, I want to do my own thing, make good money from that, and then the money that I make for that, being able to, that's the beauty of LA, man, it's just the networking and everything. Like you can go to a party and fucking, next thing you know, you meet like 2-3 people, and now you're like in Chris Brown's house, or like Usher, or like, you know what I mean, like whatever it is, like literally it's like that. Like it's so like
yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, it really is like that fucking simple, because it's just like, if you're a good person, like you're chill, and you're not, you know what I mean? If you're not like a weirdo and you're like clout chasing or whatever, like you can meet people pretty easily and like, and work with them. You know what I mean? It's really not that hard. I think it's just a lot of people don't have a lot of shit to like offer as well. And they're kind of weirdos. So, or like too, like fans, you know what I mean?
Big time. No, it's all about, I mean, business. It's all about being able to like, whether you got products or services, you got to sell yourself at first, that's, so it's like, if you're a weirdo, like,
I think it's just being genuine too, like you got to be like genuine.
It's going to be a lot harder to sell what you got going, or just to meet, or like, no, definitely, brother. So, what you guys are doing with the supplements, let's just all chat up some stuff again if you want to do something like that in the future. And then, but either way, man, let's stay in touch. Thanks for hopping on. I know at least one person will get something from this. So